The battlefield was burning, smoke rising into the dark sky. The alien war dog moved through the ruins with powerful steps, his body built for war. His fur was marked with scars, and his eyes glowed with the fire of loyalty. He had been created for one purpose only: to serve his alien masters. The war dog's ears twitched as the sound of explosions echoed across the field. He carried the scent of his masters in his memory, the scent that meant duty and obedience. They had told him he was special, that he was more than a beast. They promised him honor and a place in their grand empire, and he had believed them. Every battle was proof of his devotion. He had fought without fear, tearing through enemy lines with unmatched strength. He never asked questions, never doubted orders. His heart beat only for the cause of his masters. He thought they would never abandon him. But this night was different. The enemy had launched a counterattack, powerful and sudden. The ground shook with every blast, and the sky burned with red fire. The war dog followed commands, his claws ripping through metal and flesh alike. His body ached, but he pressed forward because loyalty demanded it. Then came the moment that changed everything. As the enemy forces pushed closer, he turned to find his masters. His golden eyes searched for the commanders who had always stood behind him. But they were gone. They had fled, leaving him in the fire and ruin. The war dog froze, confusion cutting deeper than any wound. Why would they leave him, their most loyal soldier, their strongest creation? The truth clawed at his heart. He was never family, never trusted. He was only a tool, disposable once broken. Blasts rained down around him, tearing apart the ground. His body was hit, shrapnel cutting into his side. He staggered but did not fall. His breath came heavy, his muscles screamed in pain. But the greater wound was not in his body, it was in his spirit. For the first time, he felt betrayal. It was a strange and bitter taste, colder than blood, sharper than claws. He wanted to howl, not in rage but in despair. The masters he would have died for had chosen to leave him. The loyalty he had carried so proudly had been crushed in an instant. Still, the war dog would not die easily. He dragged his body through the fire, every step a fight against the weight of betrayal. His vision blurred, but he pushed forward, his heart no longer guided by orders, but by a strange instinct to survive. The battlefield around him was a graveyard of broken machines and fallen soldiers. The silence between explosions felt heavier than the noise in that silence. The war dog's mind filled with questions. What was he fighting for? Who was he without his masters? Could loyalty mean anything if it was only met with betrayal? Another blast shook the ground, throwing him against a wall of rubble. Dust covered his fur, his breathing ragged. He felt weaker than ever. His masters would not return. He knew it now. He was alone, abandoned in the fire. But even in despair, there was a spark, a small, stubborn fire inside his chest. He would not die here, not like this. If his masters saw him only as a tool, then he would break free from them. He would live, even if only to prove that betrayal could not destroy him. The war dog lifted his head, golden eyes burning through the smoke. He was broken, bleeding, and betrayed. Yet he was alive, and as long as life remained, there was still a chance. He staggered onward, limping through the battlefield, searching not for his masters but for something else. Something he could not yet name, something that might give him a reason to keep moving. His paws left bloody prints in the ash, a trail of survival. Far ahead, through the smoke and flames, a different scent reached him. It was not alien, not familiar, but strange and human. The war dog's ears pricked, his breath caught. He did not know it yet, but his life was about to change. This was the night of his betrayal, but also the first step toward his redemption. And though he could not understand it yet, hope was waiting for him, carried not by his masters, but by the very beings he had been trained to hate, humanity. The war dog limped through the wasteland of fire and ash. His powerful body, once feared by enemies, now shook with weakness. Blood dripped from his side, where sharp metal had torn into him. Every breath was heavy, every step slower than the last. Yet his golden eyes refused to close. He would not allow death to claim him so easily. All around him the battlefield lay silent. Machines burned, soldiers lay still, and smoke rose in endless black streams. The war dog had seen countless battles, but never had he felt so alone. Always before, the voices of his masters had guided him, their commands sharp and clear, but now those voices were gone, leaving only emptiness. The silence was cruel. It pressed against him, filling his mind with questions he could not silence. Why had they abandoned him? Had he not given them everything? Had he not bled for them, killed for them, obeyed them without hesitation? Was loyalty nothing more than a leash, to be cut when no longer useful? He stumbled and fell, his massive frame crashing against the broken ground. Dust rose around him, coating his fur in gray. For a moment he lay still, his chest rising and falling in shallow rhythm. His ears drooped, his claws dug weakly into the earth. In that moment, he felt not like a warrior, but a discarded weapon left to rust. Memories came unbidden, flashes of battles fought with pride, his masters standing tall above him, promising honor and reward. They had called him strong, called him loyal, called him family, but now those words felt like chains, chains made of lies. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound. It was not just his body that bled, it was his spirit. He growled low, a sound of pain and anger mixed together. His golden eyes burned, not with loyalty, but with something new, a dark fire born from betrayal. If they wanted him to die alone, he would deny them that. He would live, even if only to defy the lies he had once believed. The war dog pushed himself up, his muscles screaming in protest. Step by step, he moved forward, dragging his wounded body across the battlefield. Each movement was a promise to himself. He would not be their tool anymore. He was broken, yes, but he was not finished. The world around him seemed to whisper of death. Shadows stretched across the ruins, and the air stank of blood and smoke. Yet even in this graveyard, the war dog's instincts guided him. His ears twitched at the faint sound of life, distant and unfamiliar. His nose caught a scent carried on the wind. It was strange, not alien, not his masters, but something else entirely. Humans. The word pulsed in his mind. He had been trained to see them as the enemy, taught that they were weak, unworthy, dangerous. But now, alone and betrayed, he found himself drawn toward the faint traces of their presence, not out of loyalty, but out of something he could not explain, perhaps curiosity, perhaps hope. He limped forward, following the trail. Each step brought him closer to something unknown. Each heartbeat carried the weight of a choice he did not yet understand. Behind him lay the shattered promises of his masters. Ahead of him lay a future uncertain. His body was breaking, but his spirit was searching for something new. The war dog collapsed again, his strength nearly gone. His breath came in ragged gasps, his vision blurred until the battlefield became a swirl of smoke and shadows. He thought this might be the end, but then, faintly, he heard voices, human voices. At first he did not believe it. He thought his mind was playing tricks, but then the sounds grew clearer, footsteps crunching through the ash, words spoken in a language he had been trained to recognize as the enemy's tongue. The war dog lifted his head, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Shapes appeared through the smoke. Human soldiers, armored, cautious, their weapons raised as they moved carefully across the ruined battlefield. They had come searching for survivors, perhaps for supplies, but now they froze, their eyes locking onto the massive creature before them. The war dog growled weakly, his body too broken for battle, but his spirit unwilling to surrender. He expected them to shoot, to finish what the aliens had begun. He waited for death. But the humans did not fire. They held their weapons steady. But their eyes showed something else, not hatred, not cruelty, but hesitation. One of them spoke softly, the words too quiet for the war dog to understand. Yet the tone was gentle, not commanding, not cruel, but kind. The war dog's ears twitched, his heart beat faster. For the first time since his betrayal, he felt something unfamiliar stir within him. It was not loyalty, not duty, but something far more dangerous, something he had never been allowed to feel before. Hope. The war dog lay on the ground, his body trembling with exhaustion. His golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light of burning ruins. Around him the smoke curled like ghosts of the dead, and his ears twitched at the sound of approaching footsteps. The humans had come closer, their shapes now clear against the fiery horizon. They moved carefully, their weapons aimed at him. Their armor carried scratches of war, their faces hidden behind helmets. To the war dog, they looked fragile compared to his alien masters. Yet their steps were steady, their eyes alert. They were not weak, as he had been told. They were cautious, ready, and dangerous. The war dog bared his teeth, a low growl rumbling from his chest. His strength was nearly gone, but his pride refused to let him appear broken. He had been trained to fight humans, to see them as the enemy. He expected them to fire without mercy, to finish him where he lay. But no shot came. Instead, the humans halted a short distance away. They whispered among themselves, their words fast and sharp. He could not understand all of them, but the tones carried meaning. Some spoke with fear, others with curiosity. A few even sounded unsure, as if they did not see a beast but something more. One soldier stepped forward, lowering his weapon slightly. His voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. The war dog's ears perked, confused. This was not the voice of a master giving orders. This was something else, something he did not recognize. The dog growled again, but weaker this time. His body sagged against the rubble, his golden eyes locked on the humans, waiting, daring them to act. If they wished to kill him, let them do it quickly. At least they would not betray him as his masters had. The soldier knelt slowly, keeping his distance but making no move to attack. He reached into a pouch and pulled out something small. The war dog's nose twitched, catching a scent that cut through the smoke and blood food. The soldier tossed the small ration closer, letting it land between them. The war dog blinked, his instincts torn between pride and hunger. He had not eaten since before the battle. His body screamed for nourishment, but his mind whispered caution. Was this another trick, another test of obedience? The humans waited, watching. Their weapons did not lower, but they did not fire either. The silence stretched, broken only by the crackle of flames around them. Slowly, the war dog lowered his head. His tongue flicked out, tasting the edge of the food. It was strange, not like the rations his masters had given him, but warm, real, and alive with energy. He devoured it quickly, his hunger overcoming his doubts. When he lifted his head again, the soldier was still there, watching him with careful eyes, not mocking, not commanding, simply observing. Something shifted deep within the war dog. It was small, fragile, but undeniable. These humans had the chance to kill him. Yet they had not. They had the chance to fear him. Yet they offered food instead. The training in his mind clashed with the truth before his eyes. The war dog's growl faded, his breathing steadied, his eyes, once filled with rage, now carried confusion. Could it be possible that the enemy was not what his masters had told him? Could it be that strength was not found in cruelty, but in compassion? Another soldier stepped closer, holding out a hand. The war dog tensed, muscles coiling. If they tried to chain him, he would fight to his last breath, but the hand did not strike, did not hold a leash. It simply rested open, an offering of trust. The war dog stared, his heart pounding. He did not move forward, but he did not attack either. The humans seemed to understand his hesitation. They did not rush him, did not force him. They simply stood there, patient as if waiting for him to choose. And that choice burned inside him. For the first time in his life, loyalty was not commanded. It was not demanded with threats or fear. It was offered freely, to be taken or rejected. The war dog lowered his head, a low rumble in his chest. Not of anger, but of confusion. His body was still broken, his spirit still wounded, but something inside him shifted. For the first time, he wondered if trust could be earned, not forced. The soldiers exchanged glances, some still wary, others strangely hopeful. None of them spoke of chains or orders. None of them treated him as a weapon. In their eyes, he saw reflection, not of a tool, but of a living being. The war dog lay still, watching them. His choice was not yet made. His heart was torn between the lies of his masters and the strange truth of these humans. But deep inside, a spark had ignited, a spark that whispered of something dangerous and powerful. Hope. The war dog's body was broken, his wounds deep and painful. Yet when the humans drew nearer, they did not strike him down. Instead, they spoke in quiet tones, their voices carrying a softness he had never heard on the battlefield. Their weapons stayed ready, but their eyes showed caution mixed with something else, concern. Two of the soldiers knelt beside him. Their movements were slow, careful, showing they meant no harm. The war dog tensed, his growl rumbling. He expected chains, commands, or the cruel hand of ownership. But instead, one soldier set down a pack and pulled out strange tools, shining metal and rolls of white cloth. The scent of medicine reached his nose. It was sharp but clean, unlike the bitter chemicals of alien labs. His golden eyes narrowed in confusion. The humans were not preparing to torture him or force obedience. They were preparing to heal. When one soldier touched his side, the war dog snarled, his body jerking in pain, but the soldier did not flinch. He spoke softly, his tone steady, soothing, though the words were unknown to the dog. The war dog froze, the growl fading as he realized the touch was not cruel. It was gentle, steady, patient. The soldiers worked quickly, wrapping his wounds, pressing cloth to stop the bleeding. Their hands were firm, but never harsh. The war dog's heart pounded as strange emotions stirred within him. He was used to orders barked with cold authority, used to being treated as a weapon, but this was different. This was care. Hunger gnawed at him again, and the humans seemed to understand. One of them set another piece of food beside him. He ate it slowly this time, his eyes never leaving theirs. They did not pull the food away, did not make it a test. They simply let him eat. The fire around them grew quieter as the battle faded into distant echoes. In that silence, the war dog felt something unfamiliar. Peace. His breathing slowed, his muscles loosened, his golden eyes softened. He was still cautious, but a part of him was no longer afraid. The humans spoke among themselves, glancing at him often. Their voices carried no hatred, only curiosity. Perhaps they wondered what he was. Perhaps they debated what to do with him. But none of them raised a weapon. None of them tried to chain him. As the soldiers treated his wounds, the war dog's mind battled itself. One side whispered the training of his masters. Humans are enemies. Humans are weak. Humans are dangerous. The other side whispered the truth of the moment. Humans offered food. Humans offered care. Humans showed kindness without demand. Which was the lie, and which was the truth? Night fell over the battlefield. The stars above shone faintly through the smoke. The humans made a small camp among the ruins. They lit no large fires, only dim lamps, and they stayed close together. The war dog lay nearby, his wounds wrapped, his belly no longer empty. For the first time in his life, he slept without orders. He slept without fear of a master's voice. His dreams were restless, filled with shadows of betrayal and flashes of gentle hands. When he woke, the humans were still there, watching over him like guardians. Days passed, and his strength began to return. Each day the humans treated his wounds, brought him food, and spoke softly near him. At first he growled whenever they came close, but slowly his growls grew weaker, replaced by silence, then by stillness, then, finally, by acceptance. The war dog found himself listening to their voices. The words were strange, but the tones carried warmth. Sometimes one soldier laughed, the sound light and free. It was a sound he had never heard among his alien masters. Laughter was forbidden there, only obedience allowed. In those moments, the war dog felt a strange pull inside his chest. He did not understand it, but he did not resist it either. It was as if his heart, once chained in loyalty to lies, was beginning to open to something new. The humans never asked him to obey, never demanded loyalty. They gave him the choice, and though he did not know it yet, that choice would shape his future. The war dog was healing, not only in body, but in spirit. His scars remained, but within them grew something fragile, something dangerous, something powerful. Trust. The war dog's body had grown stronger. His wounds had closed. Those scars lined his fur like memories of fire. day after day. The humans had cared for him, and in their presence, he felt something he had never known before. Freedom. They did not give him commands. They did not force him to obey. Instead, they offered him choice. The camp had become a place of strange peace. The humans ate together, laughed together, and even argued, but always they stayed united. The war dog watched them closely, studying every movement, every sound, every glance. They were not like his masters. His masters had spoken of honor, but used cruelty. They had spoken of loyalty, but gave betrayal. These humans spoke with warmth, and they lived their words. One night, as the stars shone faintly above the smoke-filled sky, the war dog raised his head and listened to the soldiers' voices. They spoke of their homes, of families far away, of dreams waiting for them beyond the war. The war dog's ears twitched at those words. Family, dream, home. He had never been given such things. His world had only been orders and chains. The choice grew inside him, heavy and sharp. Should he remain with these humans, or should he wait for his masters to return? Part of him still longed for the voices that once guided him, for the structure of obedience. But then he remembered the battlefield, the empty space where his masters had abandoned him. He remembered the sting of betrayal sharper than any blade. The humans never once called him a tool. They never once spoke of him as property. They saw him as something more. He could sense it in the way they looked at him, cautious but respectful. He was dangerous, yes, but not worthless. To them, he was alive. The day of decision came sooner than expected. The aliens returned. Their ships descended through the clouds, dark and massive. Soldiers marched across the ruins. Searching, they had not forgotten their lost war dog. Not because they cared, but because they wanted their weapon back. The humans readied themselves. Their weapons clicked. Their armor tightened. They knew what was coming. The war dog stood among them, his heart racing. His golden eyes burned as he looked toward the figures of his former masters. He could smell them, the scent of power, the scent of lies. The alien commander's voice rang out, cold and sharp. He called the war dog by the name they had given him, a name that was not his own but a chain. He ordered him to return. The war dog froze, his muscles tightened, his ears flattened. This was the moment. Behind him, the humans stood ready, their eyes fixed on the enemy. But none of them gave him an order. None of them forced him to stay. They left the choice in his paws. He could go back to his masters, or he could remain here, among strangers who had shown him compassion. The alien commander shouted again. His tone was cruel, commanding, demanding obedience. The sound echoed in the war dog's mind like a memory of chains. He growled low, his teeth bared. He remembered the night they left him to die, the moment his loyalty was shattered. His body trembled with rage. The human stayed silent, waiting. The choice was his alone. The war dog's heart thundered in his chest. His golden eyes glowed with fire. Slowly, he stepped forward, not toward the aliens, but toward the humans. His growl rose into a roar that shook the air. He stood between his new companions and his old masters. The aliens shouted in anger, ordering him again. But the war dog did not move. His choice was made. Loyalty was no longer a chain. It was a gift, freely given. He had chosen humanity. The humans exchanged looks of shock and relief. One soldier raised his weapon and smiled beneath his helmet. The war dog stood tall, scarred and unbroken. His decision burned like fire in his chest. He was no longer their weapon. He was his own. The aliens advanced, but this time, the war dog did not fight for them. He fought against them. His claws slashed, his teeth tore. His rage was unleashed upon those who had abandoned him. For every wound they had given him, he gave back tenfold. His fury was no longer loyalty. It was justice. In that battle, the humans saw him not as a beast, but as a warrior. And for the first time in his life, the war dog understood what true allegiance meant. It was not obedience, it was not fear, it was trust, freely chosen. The battlefield burned once more, but now the fire in his heart was brighter, stronger, unchained. The war dog had made his choice, and the galaxy itself would feel its echo. The battlefield was alive with fire and thunder. The war dog moved with fury, no longer a chained beast of the aliens, but a free warrior standing with the humans. His golden eyes burned. His scars glowed under the flashes of explosions. Every strike of his claws was a promise, a declaration that he would never again be a weapon of betrayal. The humans fought beside him. Their rifles roared, their voices shouted orders, but not to him. They did not command him as his alien masters once had. They fought as equals, shoulder to shoulder for the first time. He was not a tool. He was a comrade. Alien soldiers advanced in waves, their strange weapons spitting fire across the ruins. The humans held the line, their defenses strong but straining. The war dog threw himself into the fight. His body slammed into enemies twice his size. His jaws tore through metal and flesh alike. The ground shook beneath his charge. One alien soldier raised a heavy cannon toward a group of humans. The war dog saw it, and without hesitation, he leapt. The blast struck his side, burning his fur and flesh. Pain seared through him, but he did not falter. He crushed the enemy beneath his weight, his roar echoing like thunder across the field. The humans saw his sacrifice. They saw the wounds he bore for them, and something changed in their eyes. He was no longer a creature they pitied or feared. He was family. His blood mixed with theirs on the battlefield, and in that bond was redemption. The alien commander shouted orders. Furious, his voice rang out like a whip, calling for the war dog to return, promising forgiveness, promising reward. But those words meant nothing now. The war dog turned his head, his golden eyes locking onto the commander. His growl was low and steady. It was not the growl of obedience, but of defiance. He charged through the enemy lines, the humans covering him with fire. Together they broke the alien formation, step by step, wound by wound. The commander's soldiers faltered, fear spreading as the war dog carved through them. He was no longer theirs to control. He was a storm unleashed. The humans pressed forward. Their courage grew with every step the war dog took. They shouted his name. Not the one given by the aliens, but a new name, one born of respect. It was rough, simple, human, but it carried weight for the first time. He was not just a weapon. He was someone. The battle raged until the alien forces began to retreat. Their commander roared in anger, but his soldiers broke ranks, scattering into the smoke. The war dog stood in the center of the ruins, his chest heaving, blood dripping from his wounds. The humans gathered around him, their weapons raised in triumph. In that moment, the war dog understood. Humanity had not only saved him, they had given him something far greater. They had shown him that loyalty was not chains, but choice. They had redeemed him, not through power, but through compassion. The soldiers approached, patting his scarred body, their voices filled with gratitude. They called him brother. They called him protector. And though he could not speak their words, his heart answered with a steady beat, stronger than any vow. He had once believed loyalty was unbreakable obedience. Now he knew it was built on trust. The aliens had betrayed him, but the humans had redeemed him. And in that redemption, he had found a new purpose. The war dog lifted his head, his golden eyes scanning the horizon. The battle was won, but the war was not over. He could feel in the air. More enemies would come, more trials would rise, but he no longer feared it. With humanity at his side, he was ready. The night sky above cleared for the first time in many days. Stars shone through the smoke, distant and eternal. The war dog stood tall among the humans, scarred, bleeding, but unbroken. He was no longer an abandoned tool of war. He was a protector, a guardian, a brother in arms. In his heart, a single truth roared louder than any battle cry. He had found redemption in humanity, and through him, humanity would find strength beyond the stars. The battlefield had fallen silent. Smoke drifted across the ruins like fading ghosts. The humans stood together, tired but unbroken, and beside them, towering with scars and blood, stood the war dog. His chest rose and fell slowly. His golden eyes burned faintly under the pale light of the stars. He had fought harder than ever before, not for commands, not for reward, but for something far greater, for trust, for family, for hope. The humans moved among the ruins, gathering their wounded, comforting one another. The war dog followed them, his heavy steps steady despite the pain. He was not commanded to stay close. He chose to, Wherever they went, he went, and wherever he stood, they felt safer. One soldier knelt beside him, resting a hand on his scarred shoulder. The war dog stiffened for a moment, but then allowed the touch. His masters had touched him only to control. These humans touched him to thank him, to honor him. In that simple gesture, he felt something deeper than any promise. The war dog lay down at the edge of the camp, his body heavy with exhaustion. He closed his eyes, but he did not feel alone. He listened to the soft voices of humans around him, laughter breaking through even the grief of battle. That sound filled his chest with warmth. It was a sound worth protecting. Dreams came to him that night, not of chains or betrayal, but of futures he had never imagined. In those dreams, he saw humans and himself standing together against the darkness of the galaxy. He saw children reaching out to touch his fur without fear. He saw homes where his presence was welcomed, not as a weapon, but as family. When the morning sun rose, the war dog lifted his head and looked toward the horizon. The humans were preparing to move. Their journey was far from over. The war was not yet won, but he no longer feared the road ahead. For the first time in his life, he had something to fight for. That was his choice. The alien masters would come again. They would send armies, weapons, and more lies. But the war dog knew now that he was not alone. Humanity would stand with him. And he would stand with them, not because of duty, not because of orders, but because they had given him what no master ever had: respect. He rose to his feet, scars glowing in the morning light. The humans turned to look at him, and their eyes held no chains, only trust. They knew he would fight with them. They knew he had chosen them. And together, they were stronger than any empire. As the soldiers marched, the war dog walked at their side. His steps matched theirs, his head high. His body was marked by war, but his spirit carried something new, a flame that could not be extinguished, a flame called hope. Legends would rise from this day. Stories whispered across the stars of the beast once betrayed who found redemption among humans. To the aliens, he was a traitor. To the humans, he was a brother. To himself, he was finally free. He had once been a war dog created for obedience. Now he was more. He was a guardian of humanity, a protector of their future. His scars told of pain, but his eyes told of purpose. And as long as he walked beside them, no betrayal could break them. The galaxy would remember his roar, not as the cry of a chained beast, but as the voice of hope. The war dog had chosen his path, and in that choice he had found something greater than loyalty. He had found tomorrow.